our podcast where we deep dive into sustainability. We are your hosts and the founders of Dandelion Branding. I'm Courtney, and this is my co-founder in sustainable activism, Olive. Over here, who knows? Our goal with really everything we do is bringing sustainability into the mainstream conversation. And so every month we bring you 2 different podcasts. One where we cover news that you might have missed in the past month, and the other where you get to meet some incredible sustainability champions and working towards furthering the transition to a sustainable future. So if you are interested in inspiring sustainable stories, then definitely subscribe to our channel and share this podcast with your crunchiest granola anti-capitalist friends out there. The best thing that we can do right now for the future of sustainability is really kind of keeping things, hopeful and making sure that, more and more folks really understand that there are better alternatives out there and real solutions. So this episode, though, we're talking about something pretty sad. We're talking about plastics yet again.
Again.
Yes, this is proving to be a bigger problem than even we knew about. And it's important that everyone understands that we've sort of all been lied to by all the stakeholders in this industry, right? Even the folks that were saying they were doing things for the better. But we'll also be giving you the latest on the U.S. National Park Service. There's a lot happening there. And in some fast good news, we'll be sharing some farmer empowerment. The Chinese making some long overdue climate plans. Very exciting. And all roads lead to Rome with the kickoff of the nation's backing $200 billion a year to budget for protecting nature. Love to see it. So let's jump into it.
Yeah. Okay, that's right. And here's some fast good news because everyone deserves fast good news right now. So Reuters reports that China is stepping up to the plate with a climate change and renewable energy plan and a carbon neutral plan by 2060. Do I think that this is specifically because they just do whatever the opposite of the US is doing? No comment. Yeah. Farmers need access to climate data to adapt to changing weather conditions. So an article from Alternet sheds light on the Earth Justice and Knight First Amendment Institute lawsuit that's against the U.S. Department of Agriculture for unlawfully removing climate-related information from its websites because it harms farmers and actually violates a slew of federal laws. For farmer empowerment, right? We aren't always the biggest fan of the COPs, but EcoWatch shared that COP16, which just happened in Rome, ended with a plan for nations to contribute $200 billion a year and what those contributions will go towards. In a world where the biggest issue to conservation is chronic underfunding, this is really good news. And this is the first time this has ever happened in the history of the world for conservation. So that's fast good news for you.
Ooh, good stuff.
I know it's always like fresh air before we just dive into like the bullshit.
To the most devastating things happening in our world. Yes.
Yeah, I wish we could give like deeper reports on good news, but like it's tough. It's just not what's happening right now. Maybe one day.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like, when you ask a friend for like, do you want the good news or the bad news first? We've positioned it in this way where we try to make sure that there's a little bit of hope, right? A glimmer of hope. Because there really is.
We crush it.
There really is hope. Like, and that is what's needed, I think, most in the activism world is sustaining hope, for sure.
Yeah. And if you really want some really deep hope, go watch our other podcasts every month, because all of the founders that we talk to are full of hope and optimism. And this is kind of the other side, I think, that we're sharing in these.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. I've never really thought about it that way. But yeah, our hope
I haven't either until right now. Yeah.
Our interviews. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. There we go.
Yeah. Turns out we're actually doing a pretty good job of staying balanced.
We try, unintentionally, perhaps even. Well,
Yeah.
okay, well.
Okay, so
Let's talk
something
about
we've been keeping an eye on is the national park services.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild to see, and it's almost like unbelievable actually that the amount of cuts
Yeah.
to that agency and to all of our natural park. Yeah, I mean, but it's cool to see that there are definitely influxes of visitors to these parks, many
Yeah.
of which are protesters, which has been really awesome to see.
Yeah. But the downside of those influxes is that there's no infrastructure anymore. The park rangers are like kind of like thanks, but maybe no thanks. They're really struggling to keep the parks safe. And I read an article. We linked the BBC article and an Explorer's Web article down below, but I read a lot more of just park rangers saying like, we can't even spare people to like make sure that the folks on the trails have enough water. Like one of the things they do is just like walk the trails back and forth with big water just to find people who might be caught out. And there are parks that can't do it. There are parks that have had to permanently close trails. It's really sad.
It's super sad and really dangerous to be
Yeah.
fair. Like
Really dangerous.
Yeah, and it's such a, I mean, I don't know. The whole decision is really upsetting because the Parks Department like actually makes a ton of revenue. Like they bring in a lot of funds through passes and stuff, right? And all of the like food and tourism and whatnot. So it's like this wasn't an unprofitable thing, but yet here we are.
It honestly doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It's just like, what can we shut down so that we can log and we can turn this into energy and apartments? And like, to your point, like it's unsafe. National parks in the US are dangerous even now, like going out, like, yeah, I know that's like for you and I, it was like, yeah, no shit. But when I try to, like, I live in Europe, so explaining what a national park is, it's like some national parks are as big as your country. And completely untouched wilderness with animals that can eat you. Like it's not safe to go out in those spaces by yourself. And the park rangers do a fantastic job of keeping them safe and doing the best they can. And they can't do that right now. And that's a pretty big bummer.
It's very, very sad. I mean, yeah, it is truly like, one of the places of untouched wilderness, like you said, necessary in this world. So we've got to support the rangers that are there. Yeah. I know a lot of folks are even like volunteering their time in some areas, right?
Yep.
And so we'll also link to a Reddit thread that has a bunch of information on how to support these rangers. And so you should definitely check that out.
Yeah. And thanks for doing it if you can do it. Just supporting the parks is important.
Yeah. It is.
I feel so listless about this lie. This big plastic lie. That we're
on to the next day.
On to the next thing. Like I can't, the parks, it's like, it's a heartbreaking reality and for the US. And now I feel like it's time to talk about the heartbreaking reality for the rest of the world.
Yeah. This touches everybody. This came back into the news recently because the Y did a docuseries on plastic recycling recently, and how there's so much greenwashing. Like it was really kind of highlighting the amount of greenwashing and how companies greenwash throughout this, the recycling industry. It was really, really well done, like phenomenally well done. About an hour, I would say. Highly recommend.
Yeah, just under an hour. It's like, and I just listened to it for a lot of it. And then at some points I was like, what? And I was glued to this documentary. It was incredible.
Yeah. I mean, and it really kind of shows the ugly truth of like what is really happening with our recycling. It shows the other side. Once you throw something in the recycling bin and hope for the best, it really kind of highlights that entire process of what happens after you walk away, after you've thrown that in the bin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you're in the sustainability world, like it's not a ton of surprising news, but Like, it's not surprising. It's still just hard to know. And there are a few parts that, like, do kind of beg attention. And there's one that I just got so livid. I literally started texting my husband being like, will you please set up a field trip to the recycling center in Noonan? We're going to the recycling center. I need to know what their plans are. Like, I got mad. So I am
Okay,
going to go to the
lit a
recycling
fire.
center.
Cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did.
Oh, wow.
And I want to see like what their machines do and what we can actually give them and what needs to happen otherwise. And then we need to like also plan for that and not buy things that can't. Like, I don't know. I guess it was a life-changing documentary because that's going to make it's going to make a pretty big difference, right? It's like actually going and seeing what my recycling center is capable of and making consumer choices based on it. Like, I feel like that's pretty crunchy, but
It's very crunchy but like awesome. But it sucks that individuals have to go to such great lengths to get that information. To actually have to go and tour a recycling center to understand how they're utilizing the waste that you trust that they will take care of as you understand it, to have to go
this should
through
just
all of
be
it.
like in a newsletter. It should just be
like community updates, right? Like
community updates. Like, you have an app, Blink, for my neighborhood, for this area. We have an app where you can see like what days what's happening, what's coming. Why don't you put this information in your app? Why don't you make this information available? And I say this from a place of like, the Netherlands has one of the best systems in the world, and we still struggle with this. And there are places I was on the phone with my mom today, and I was telling her about this podcast, and she was like, well, don't talk too much shit about recycling because Flint is getting a recycling center now. Like, now, for the first time. Growing up, we literally could not recycle. There was no infrastructure for that. So I'm bitching about going down to mine and like getting it, but there are a lot of places that don't have the infrastructure at all.
Yeah, I mean, but I think through this documentary, it was kind of eye-opening that like even with that infrastructure, there isn't a whole lot that can be done. I mean,
no,
it was devastating on a lot of ends, and I laugh not because it's funny.
I know.
It
I
is
know.
a defense mechanism.
Because it's absolutely ridiculous is why. Yeah. I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
It's a loaded question. How do you feel about using plastic waste as fuel? Like burning it and using it as fuel.
Oh my gosh. I feel truly conflicted by it. I mean, in essence, I hate it, but I also understand that the reality is that is the only viable option in some cases and with some kind of qualities of plastics.
Yeah, it's made out of fucking oil, so...
Right. Like, I think that that's perhaps a comparable alternative to burning, like, new oil and gas, right? Like, but I don't think that should be thought of as, like, a solution for energy at all. Like, I think that's a slippery slope. I think
Sorry, I'm laughing because that's what the Alliance to End Plastic Waste is doing.
Which part?
Like, so I noticed in that video that in the documentary that they were talking about when they burn plastic, using it as the energy to power the place that the center, basically. And I looked it up. I didn't even realize this, but there's like a whole world talking about this. And all of the Alliance to End Plastic Waste is in the docuseries, but it's also in like all of the conversation around using our plastic as energy. And I was like, well, okay, but that made me feel like, okay, well, it's an alliance to end plastic waste, but that's like fully what you're supposed to feel, because that alliance is made out of basically just petrochemical and like the biggest consumer good brands in the world, like Exxon, Dow, Shell, Chevron, Procter and Gamble. That's just
what?
And
wait, okay, right.
Yeah,
So
their biggest
fancy term for them, so that they can like get kudos for solving the problem that they caused.
Like, I'm a big fan of like giving space to companies to fix their problems, but actually they're just they're just being like, okay, we caused a plastic problem. Can we turn that into energy? Can we get recycling everywhere? It's like, that's it. Those are their solutions. That's all they're doing. They're not, these are the biggest companies in the world with the most buying power and like some of the biggest says in rooms. And they are not saying we need to end plastic production.
Well,
that's our who we're looking up to with this one.
They had no incentive to, though, right? Like they continue to think of recycling and using the plastic waste as a fuel source. Like they continued to see short-sighted kind of like potential solutions, I guess, but they're not even, because it's just like pushing the buck further down, right? And I don't have
and making everything worse while they're doing it. Yeah. They're like,
right.
Let's compound the problem, but then like we have this alliance so we can just burn it.
Meanwhile, consumers continue to be confused about what even can be recycled, what even is happening once things try to get recycled, or like what alternatives they have to things that don't go into like the traditional recycling bins, right? And that was another huge part of this documentary. I think that was...
This is the part that really made me mad.
Yeah. And it was about TerraCycle.
Do you remember when TerraCycle started?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I feel like we were still working together in
skincare industry.
Yeah. I feel like I did like a brand love on TerraCycle thing. Like when they first started, I feel like we were part of their like media push. Remember like...
I don't recall that. I mean, I know that it was definitely in the world. It was such an innovative solution, and they had...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Claim. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. We
used to spotlight brands that we love and support, and I feel like we did one on TerraCycle.
Okay.
So I like remember loving them and being like so hopeful and excited and like talking to the TerraCycle people. And this documentary made me feel so mad because I felt so let down. I mean, I feel like that article would have been 10 years ago or something. Like, but essentially in this docuseries, the investigative journalists were investigating illegal plastic incineration in parts of Europe. And they found through like, they were looking through, I think the footage that they had shot, and they noticed that like one of the big barrels, one of the big like things at this factory in Bulgaria were like stacked differently and kind of nicely. And they went back to it and said, this is kind of weird. Like, what did we see? And they went back to it and they had found TerraCycle shipments from the UK to be incinerated at this place.
I think maybe let's take a step back, because I don't know if it's 100% common knowledge that like Western countries are shipping all of their plastic waste to essentially the global south, or countries, impoverished countries for the most part. And so, and it was going to China for a long time until I believe they said 2019 or 2017, something around there, when China completely stopped accepting any imports of plastic waste. And then it's moved around to other, like where we as the US and Western Europe, sort of try to find the next place to ship this. And there's just continuous, countries are continuing to say,
like, stop it.
No longer accept this, as they should, right? They should.
As they should.
Right. No other country should be responsible for our waste. But so the latest country that's sort of accepting this is Bulgaria. And so like that, they were investigating this particular plant and kind of just how easy it is to like lie about the quality of the plastic and stuff, and how you can get around a lot of these import laws. It's like really sketchy stuff. Like it is a very sketchy industry in
it is like an undercurrent even. They like don't and it's like it's not legal, right? It's actually unlawful, but they, like you were saying, they're like getting around imports and like hiding things. And
because there's different qualities of plastic. There's like HDPE, which can be used and recycled again. And then there was another category of like, there's nothing you can do with it.
Yeah.
And there was a term for it, and I forget what the acronym was for it. But yeah, so they were like telling the guy to import to like hide the bad plastic with like some good plastic in the front. So when customs goes to like look, it's literally drug smuggling. Like it's smuggling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's smuggling. There's a whole smuggler world for plastic, guys. Yeah. It's for fucking plastic.
Yeah. So that's what they were investigating, essentially. That's like the background. Yeah. And in doing so, they found this TerraCycle, like pre-sorted, perfectly cleaned, like bags that that the consumers expected that these were going to be recycled, and yet they were there incinerated.
They weren't, and we should probably note that TerraCycle, like how it works is that people, like volunteers, pay for their boxes to be able to ship to these facilities. And they tell them, like, if you're in the UK and you and your community, you accept things in the UK and send them to our UK office, we will recycle them in the UK. So it stays local, your footprint stays smaller. And these people painstakingly do this. And they actually show a woman, you remember her name?
Allison Haskins or something. Yeah.
Oh my God. They like show her the photos.
A literal angel human. We love you, Allison. We'd love to meet you.
We love you, Allison.
Yeah. We saw ourselves in you.
Yeah.
But like the amount of work that she put into collecting. She was this community hub for her community, basically. She put together all of the packages. She had all of the different cans to sort everything, so organized about it. And they found her packaged recycled goods there in Bulgaria. And they like presented her all of this information, and it was heartbreaking.
It was I felt like it was a little cruel, but like, how would you, I don't know. Part of me is like, should they have done that on camera? But the other part of me is like, they're investigative journalists, and like to show the impact that this has on individuals who are working, I don't think they could have done anything different. Like, it was amazing and beautiful.
I mean, it was really sad, but I think that is sort of what's needed. Like that was the most like human experience, right? Like she was doing everything above and beyond what a consumer could do in order to try to recycle her waste. Yep. She was doing everything the books all tell you to do. Yep. Following all
what TerraCycle tells her to do. Mm-hmm. She buys in. She's been doing this for years and has bought into this whole system and has like made it possible and got her friends down the road. Like, I can tell you, because I live in one of these little European neighborhoods, that if I started a collection bin over here and I went to all my neighbors, they'd be like, shit, that crazy hippie bitch down the road. You know how long she had to probably put up with that before they were like, oh yeah, well, it's actually pretty easy. We'll go give her our trash.
Yes. Yeah. The amount of education she had to do for her community members, so much work. So much
work. Yeah. And they just sent her shit to be burned. And they also like called him out and taped the CEO reacting to it.
Yeah. That's a clip that I had seen go viral like a week ago or so.
Yeah, I saw that. That's what got me into watching this docuseries.
Which they did totally put him on the spot, and he
fucking deserved it.
Completely unprepared. But
yeah, because you have to. I think that like for them, you have to. Otherwise, you would have come with a prepared statement. Like they turned around and said, "Yeah, we investigated it, and this was a one-time thing, and it's never happened before, and never happened." Absolute fucking bullshit. I'm sorry.
They have no proof of that. They can continue to just say that.
No. Yeah. Because they hide it. Because this was, again, remember how we were talking about this is like fucking drug smuggling?
Underground. Black market for your
This is black market trash shit.
Literally.
Literal black market. Yes. Yes. And he's like, oh, it's only happened once. And it's like, okay, because TerraCycle definitely has one connection ever, the one time, to the black market trash. No.
Yeah, there's no way.
No. I'm sorry. I'm still really fucking mad. I'm still mad.
It's valid. Because I mean, they tout themselves as the end all be all, as this solution that 100% of all materials can go to them and be recycled. We've got it covered. Like that's their brand.
It's their brand. And it's a lie. And it's been a lie. And It hurts. And I dug into it a little bit more because they also talked about this lawsuit, and I hadn't heard about the lawsuit, but it's not like I don't watch for TerraCycle or follow them. So I was like, this is kind of weird. I want to know more about the lawsuit. I want to check side. Honestly, if you Google TerraCycle, what you see is like so many beautiful articles, just like PR, 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 PR. And I mean, we're marketers and we're like in this world. We can spot them now. It's like, these are all paid for articles. And you know what I think? I think it was PR to bury the lawsuit, because I feel like that should be on top. But if you can get enough good PR, you can bury anything.
Yeah, damage control. Yeah.
Well, they did a good fucking job with their damage control. And that makes sense because they are beholden to some of the largest plastic producers in the world.
Right. Yeah. The industry that they're in is multi-billion-dollars a month or a year in
easily.
Like
easily.
So
easily.
Yeah, it's not surprising
their clients have full on damage control like staff.
Yeah. There's so much that we could go into. I think the part that I think specifically the part that I found most, besides the whole thing being devastating, but like the part I found was most insidious was the use of the TerraCycle logo. And
Same.
Like, so companies essentially, in order to use the logo, at least one of that company's packages has to be deemed recyclable
by TerraCycle.
And then they can use the logo indefinitely for everything.
On anything.
All over. Yeah.
Beep. How fucked up is that? That it, like, when I learned, and that was a big part of the lawsuit, because it's like, okay, you can change your language. You can, like, you can prove that they're actually doing the work, right? Like, because they were saying that like their marketing is deceptive. Yes, okay, and actually their website is still pretty opaque about the work they do. There's not a ton of photos of everything actually happening, but that's all actually changeable. But you're right. I also feel like this is just too much, that it's based on the company and not based on the packaging.
That singular change could like shift a lot of this, though, if they just, if it was specific to the product, specific to the packaging that is getting certified rather than the brand. That doesn't make any sense. These brands,
it doesn't make any sense.
Thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of products. These are like Johnson & Johnson. Like, what are we talking about? You can't say that across the board umbrella, everything's all good because TerraCycle. It's like, what magic world do you think we're living in? That's not reality.
You know what this reminds me of is the Fire Festival. Like, it's like,
okay, yeah.
It's like the level of like, I'm just gonna say whatever it takes to make everything seem okay, and then you look under the blanket one level, and it's just garbage. Like this point, literal garbage.
Yeah,
it's a literal dumpster fire. Like, and I'm totally looking at the founder of TerraCycle differently now, because I just see the like bro bullshit. Now it's just like the wool has been pulled off, and like here I am. Like, I wouldn't say I was a champion for TerraCycle just because I haven't been as connected with them, but I have kept up with them, and I'm like, I will never trust this brand again.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what happens.
I've absolutely fallen for like feeling better about purchases because I've seen that logo.
Same. 100%. I would trust a brand more over that logo because we've known about them for a decade. Like, it's been...
We got.
I feel really angry. You know what Tom said to me yesterday was like, I was explaining this to him because when I was like, we're going to go to the recycling center, he was like, what low-hanging fruit? And I thought that was the perfect way to say this, is like, what low-hanging fruit it is to just make your packaging more sustainable. Like, especially for these billion-dollar companies. I know companies who are not profitable who have a cradle-to-grave solution for their packaging. The world's biggest issue in sustainability is packaging. And I just thought that was so nice, like the way he put it. What low-hanging fruit for you to just make your packaging better.
But they refuse to do it.
Yeah, well, they don't want to spend the money. It's like,
because they
I
think they
don't,
can sell us a solution too, right? Like they're making money on both ends. Like
they do think they're gonna, and they have been selling us a solution, and it's a lie. I want to tear it down, man.
oh,
Courtney's like, uh-oh.
I mean, this, like, I was happy to see that the clip went viral of this docuseries. Though I think the clip kind of seemed out of context. Like the clip seemed like these reporters just randomly showed up to the TerraCycle CEO with some pictures and like had no actual evidence. They were just showing him random pictures. So like when I first saw that, I wanted to defend him. Like I wanted
So
to
did
be like,
I.
oh, that
That's
yeah.
actually why I watched it. Because I was like, this isn't real. They blindsided him. I need more information. And I watched it, and then I was like,
Yeah. So I hope others kind of follow that same path totally. And like I truly, if you're watching this, like please do check out that documentary. Because I think that
the why. Yeah.
I think it's really important, and I think it's such interesting kind of food for thought and food for conversation with anybody in your life. Like I think that people are generally like everybody wants a solution to recycling, and like I think it's just something that we can be more open and talk about more freely. Like it just sort of seems like this weird thing that like people are okay with kind of being uneducated about and kind of like don't really care. But like
and something we kind of hide away, you know? Like something like we just put aside because it's trash and we're ashamed of that or something.
There's shame around it for sure.
There's shame, and then there's a shame around like not knowing it, so then you just ignore it because you can just put it under the counter. And I feel like conversations need to start at home. Like when you have a friend over and like they need to recycle something, I need to put something away. Like I always show them all the different places that how we separate all of our waste out. And I know that like, again, I'm just like the crunchiest friend every time, but like I don't care because it starts that conversation. And like this TerraCycle, like I called my mom to rant about this today because she was like, "What's your next podcast going to be about?" She's apparently listening. I don't know. And I was like, "Buckle up."
Yeah. You're in for one. Yeah. I mean, because it's something that our parents' generation thought was this perfect solution. And I think that people, they still want to think it's this perfect solution. And it's just, I
mean, the deal is it could be. But like the plastic goods that are created and used now are not the same as the plastic that the infrastructure was created for.
Very true. Very, very true. The quality of plastic has gone down to the point where it was never created to be recyclable in the first place. Yeah.
No. And that's really where, like, we're splitting hairs there, but there are people in the world that like make these choices. You know, like if you're going to make a product, you have a choice. Do you go with the recyclable HDPE? Do you go with the resin? Do you go with the cardboard? Or do you go with the like Tetra Pak that can only be recycled at certain places? People, it's 10 cents cheaper, right? Like people are going to choose them. Make better choices. Brands, make better choices.
And support brands that are really being more transparent about their packaging, materials, and all of that. Because there are brands out there, absolutely, in every industry for every product.
Yep.
You just got to find them. They're a little bit harder to find for sure. But
they're scared to talk about it because they have the green hush going on. That's a different topic.
Tough out there, man. but there are alternatives for all of these kind of major products out there. So those brands are worth supporting. Absolutely.
Yes, they are.
So thank you so much for watching, everybody.
Thanks for sticking around. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. See you next time.